it's not a life, it's purely an existence. And perhaps, going back to what I read before, which I've always believed, that from the day, you know, before I was born, I was meant to speak to you tonight, and they were meant to do this play, and you know, that's how Allah planned my life up to today. And I just hope that in the rest of my life I could make some amends to society for all I took out of it, because you can't just take it out. You know, you can't, you can never get away by taking out more than you put in. You get away with it for a while, but then you empty the bottle of life and there's nothing left. So thank you very much.
Let's have a takbir for the actors, inshallah, bro. Allahu Akbar.
We're going to take some questions now.
And perhaps a separate hand for Alan's dad. and for Tommy Cowley. And his other guests. And of course for the lunatic on Bill.
We're going to take some questions now, brothers, and then we'll stop for food, inshallah.
Yeah, you know how there's a film, The Craze, yeah?
God, I've got to come back.
You know how there's a film they made,
Craze, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a book that you just read as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about like making a film of your life story so you show like two sides of the story?
Okay, I've struggled, a very good question. I wrote a screenplay for the book, which in my eyes is totally perfect, because I saw the imam in the mosque using a very simple computer program on Photoshop. I've got the whole script with the words coming across, and it's up to him now. It's up to Allah whether he puts me in touch with the right people that can actually make it. Yeah, because I wouldn't allow it to be made where I came out a hero. And the robberies came in. It's a story like the book of what not to do. So it's up to him. But I would love to see a film made as it really was, you know, showing the horror.
Sorry, does the Cray Brothers film actually have your character in there as well?
No, the Cray Brothers film had a similar character, but for a brief moment. But the actual film that I can't remember the chap who made it, was in my humble opinion, diabolically bad when he had such good material, you know, of the Krays, who in themselves, they weren't really that dangerous gangsters. One was a raving mad, and the other was kind of half raving mad. They were only really local gangsters, and the myth has been built up over the years of, you know, the Krays. They were very dangerous, and they killed a few people. But the more interesting part would have been to have focused on their association even much later on, still with their mum and dad, and you know, Valence Road and so
on. What was it that drew you to Islam? I mean, because it takes a lot to kind of go from that sort of lifestyle to changing that complete lifestyle, and taking a total U-turn, turning to Islam. So what was that initial thing that made you embrace Islam and change your way of life, kind of thing?
Okay, about 18 months or 2 years ago, but this was not the reason, but this kind of started me, that was kind of the initial reason. I won't go into all the details, but about 12 years ago I was divorced from my ex-wife, and I got 2 sons today, Oliver and Julian, and I was so cut up with it, I never thought I'd ever, you know, want to know about meeting or marrying any woman again. And then I met a girl in Sainsbury's, who works in Sainsbury's, and from Pakistan, and we started going out together, and she introduced me to 2 boys who, you know, are and were and are Muslim, and I talked to them a few times, and I got more and more interested, because I've always believed there was a God, and the things they told me started to interest me, and I started to read things, and then this is exactly how I converted. It's a funny story as well. On this one time when they came to see me, one boy said, "We'd like to take you to a mosque, you know," and I said, "Well, I know where one mosque is for certain, I live in Victoria, in Regent's Park. So we went there, and the idea was to show me the mosque and let me talk to the imam if he was free to talk to me. And one boy, so three of us arrived. One boy met somebody else and kind of roamed off. The other boy was hanging about with me outside the imam's office, and he met somebody else and roamed off. And then the imam opened the door, because he's very busy, said, "Come in, what do you want?" You know? And I said, "Oh, I was here to talk about," they brought me here, I said, "to talk about converting to Islam." He said, "All right, sit down." And when you sit in that man's office, you seem to sink right down low into this armchair, and he's kind of sits right up here. And he said to me, he said, "Well, what questions do you want to ask?" I asked him a few questions, I can't remember the exact questions. And then another man who didn't know came in the room. And then he asked the most potent question I've ever been asked. "What more, how much more would you want to know before you converted?" And my reply to him was, I could stay here forever arguing with you, because you've obviously, nobody in this room, nobody in this world has actually met Allah, you know, face to face. Nobody sat down and had a cup of tea with him. So anything we're told, most of the things we're told, we have to accept on faith. And I said to him, probably ask questions forever. And he said to me, "Well, if that's the..." And then I don't know why I said it. I then said to him something like, "I may as well convert." He said, "Well, let's do it now." And there was two other men there, so we did it. And then the two friends came back, and they said, "How did you enjoy it all?" And I said, "Quite good, look, I'm Muslim." And then I got back to Rabina, who was at the library down the road here, the British Library, still studying. And she said to me, "Did they help you at all?" I said, "Yeah, they helped, look." You know? And then she phoned all of her family, all spoke to me in Urdu, congratulating me. But I've been asked about my feelings, and the only thing I can say to you is this. Obviously, I've been in a few situations in my life, but when I'm in the mosque praying with people either side of me, I've never felt so safe, and still feel the same every Friday in my entire life. So I haven't become the perfect Muslim by a long shot, but I'm desperately trying more and more and more. And this year was the first year I've really fasted in Ramadan. I fasted 3 days where I had, I don't know, like a cup of tea or something halfway through the day, right? Either 2 or 3 days, but the rest of the days, irregardless of however I felt, I fasted and felt very good. I must just say one story. I went to the mosque at Park Lane like a week into Ramadan and spoke to the imam there, who only speaks Arab, so I had to have a translator, and I laid it on really thick with a kind of half a lie and said, "You know, I've just converted and I'm fasting for Ramadan, I feel really ill and faint. Is it okay if I just eat a little bit?" Expecting him to say, "Yeah, because you're quite old, you can eat a bit and it'll still be okay." His reply was, "Now have a bit of discipline and fast properly," and walked away. So I continued to fast, and even though I had to fly to Germany, I fasted there, and I got the times wrong because Germany is an hour later than us, like by your watch. So I just added an hour on to the time that I thought it was, but I could have broke the fast much earlier. So I did extra fasting out.
Ronnie?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. When you embrace Islam, the people that knew you when you was a obviously know you as an ex-gangster, how did they feel?
At first, I told quite a few people, and they all think that I'd gone totally mad altogether. I answered your question with my daughter, my grown-up daughter, who is called Tessa in the book, but her real name is Tanya. When I told her, she said, "What?" And I said, "I've converted to Islam." There was a long silence over the phone. And she said, "What was that, Dad?" I said, "I've converted to Islam." She said, "What, Muslim?" I said, "Yeah." And another long silence, and then she said, "Do you go to those places?" I said, "What places are those?" And she said, "Those funny buildings they all go into." I said, "What, you mean the mosques?" I said, "Yes, I do." So I just wanted to know. But you could hear, like, but my sons, bless them, have both become quite interested and are reading a lot of literature, because everybody in